Good afternoon, my name is Ola Atamanova, and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center, Ukrinform. It's been 10 years of the war, and today is day 643 of the full-scale invasion of a homeland by Russian aggressor. And traditionally, I would like to thank all the representatives of the mass media who tell the world the truth about our heroic resistance. A brief schedule of prepared by our team for today is as follows. At 2:30 we'll be talking about the situation in Mykolaiv region with Vitaly Kim, the military governor of Mykolaiv region, and at 15 o'clock we will have a discussion of the study called Downward Spiral of Addiction, how YouTube algorithms promote conspiracy and propaganda. And right now we will be talking about Ukrainian energy sector. Joining us online is Oleksandr Kharchenko, director at the Energy Industry Research Center. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Good afternoon. So, Mr. Oleksandr, the last weekend brought us a cyclone that definitely had influence on our energy sector. Also, the shellings of our energy, our power grid have started. So what is the aftermath that we can review right now? So let's talk first about the drone strike, that supermassive drone strike. This attack demonstrated that all the preparations that were made by the power technicians and the military in terms of coordination and in terms of improvement of protection of the energy infrastructure facilities, it has a very transparent result and a very good result. The goals set by the Moscovian terrorists as they were launching the drones, those goals were not achieved at all. There were certain damages that were mitigated within hours, and air defense systems yet once again proved their efficiency, just as well as all the measures taken by the energy technicians to mitigate the results of such attacks. So at least in this part, the situation, well, I cannot say it's good, but it's under control. And it is such that tells us we were preparing the power grid properly, in the right way. Well, talking about the weather, that's a unique situation. There are statements by the meteorologists who say that it was the biggest storm within years, with the with the wind velocity up to 150 meters per second, that broke a chimney in the boiler room in Odessa. To me, it's even difficult to comprehend how it happened, but it's a fact. The weather conditions are just fantastic in terms of their negative impact. Unfortunately, hundreds of villages ended up without power supply. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to re-establish the power supply when some aerial lines are broken in 7 or 8 or 10 different spots, and the repair teams have to just break through the snow to do their repairs, to understand then that there is another breakage in yet another spot that should be repaired too. But the work is still underway. Hundreds of people are working. The work is in progress, and the work goes on for 24/7. For what I understand, we should expect yet another weather problem within the next couple of days in the western regions of Ukraine. We expect for strong winds and heavy snowfalls, and I would like to urge Ukrainians, to warn Ukrainians that there may be power breakdowns related to bad weather conditions, so make provisions of water, of food, other supplies, specifically in Carpathians, where sometimes the repair works may take a lot of time, because it may take a lot of time just to get to the spot of the where the area line may be damaged, just to get to your workplace. So this is the situation for the time being, in my opinion. Well, really, yesterday we were talking to a representative of Hydrometeorological Center of Ukraine, who warned us that tomorrow, in the second part of the day, we should expect for the new cyclone to come in. So please don't neglect this warning. Mr. Oleksandr, I would like still to talk more about the power grid. We've heard from multiple experts, and not only from experts, but also from the representatives of military administrations from different regions, that there is already a deficit of electric power in Ukraine. What is it related to, and is it real that even without any drone or missile strikes, we will have some restrictions of power supply during this winter period? Well, look, objectively the situation looks like this. We have 50% of our power grid either destroyed or captured or heavily damaged. The power grid that existed before the war, and at the same time 70% of coal generation that is important for maneuvering was damaged or captured or destroyed too. And it's quite easy to explain when the temperature goes down. 1 degree below zero means additional 200 megawatts of consumption, so basically another power reactor, and there is no power reactor to switch on during such deficit. And it was a forecasted situation. There was a lot of talks about it during the summer, during the repairs campaign, and now it's clear that mostly with a temperature of 8 to 10 degrees below zero, we will have very serious deficit. We are already having this deficit within a couple of days. We were able to cover it thanks to the support from our European powers. Ukrenergo was getting the emergency support from Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. We really appreciate the input of our European partners. There were no shutdowns thanks to their efforts so far. But according to our estimates, with temperature falling below, we will have nothing to cover the deficit with, because there are certain restrictions that we have with the transborder transportation of electric power. So within peak hours, between 17 and 21 o'clock in the evening, we will have deficit. And there are two ways: either Ukrainians start saving electric power and start disconnecting ions, boilers, and other appliances that consume a lot of power. And if Ukrainians do so, in the apartment blocks, it will save a lot of power. So if you disconnect your boiler or your electric kettle, it may decrease the consumption of power from 1.5 to 2 kilowatts. So if people consume less power, we will have probably less deficit. If people continue using the electric power in the way they're used to, we will probably have shutdowns, because for what I see, we've squeezed everything from the businesses, all the biggest consumers that can be repaired, can be repairing their facilities during the winter time without consumption of electric power. They all do such repairs. So probably we will have imposed restrictions on the consumers. But again, we're not talking about apocalypse here. We're talking about like 2 or 3 hours rolling shutdown within a forecasted schedule. So, touching upon the topic of businesses, everyone whose operations can be suspended, it will to the maximum extent help us in this situation, which means that the businesses will hardly operate to the fullest of their capacity during their winter. Well, unfortunately, it's just technically impossible because we don't have enough power supply, and there was a great work done to make sure that the biggest consumers start their repair works under the specific schedule to preserve electric power for the utility consumers. Well, talking about the support from the international partners, you've mentioned that thanks to them we were able to balance the deficit. Is it a traditional support they're providing, or we're talking about import here? Well, it includes both import, however, it's still restricted due to Ukrainian limitations of prices in the market that do not allow the import to be deployed to its fullest. And also about the emergency help that is provided upon request of Ukrinform, and I would like to emphasize a very efficient work by Ukrinform, because they work quite efficiently with exporters and they obtain that supply of emergency electric power in a timely manner. Mr. Oleksandr, so talking about this winter season and preparations to it, to what extent we were able to finish all the preparations before we entered this difficult winter? Well, you know, it's a question of a philosophic nature, and my answer would be we've done about 120% of what we could do and about 50% of what had to be done. Like, on one hand, a lot of things were done, but on the other hand, we're still seriously underperforming. Well, Mr. Oleksandr, talking about the situation in our nuclear power plants, what's going on over there? Well, you know, talking about the reports from Energoatom, the situation is very good. The repair works were done before the schedule. All the reactors are operating in normal mode, save for just one reactor where a long-term repair is required on one of the turbines, but it's a whole different story. So talking about nuclear power capacities, we feel quite good, save for the captured Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Well, now that we've touched upon Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, do we know about any changes in the situation over there? The situation is increasingly worse there. It's deteriorating. There were shutdowns within the last couple of days. Ukrinform re-established the power supply for Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant just recently. But however, the equipment is degrading over there. The occupiers cannot operate it effectively, and the further the worse. Well, we understand that the repairs and the maintenance are not performed there. The upgraded equipment is not being supplied. So under conditions like this, how long will Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant be able to operate in this mode? Well, it continues degrading gradually, and the longer it takes, the longer it will take to upgrade it or to renew it to the normal operational level. Well, the system is strong, but to renew it, it will take a lot of time and effort. Well, thank you very much for this information. Thank you for joining our broadcast, dear colleagues. I'm reminding you, joining us was Oleksandr Kharchenko, the director of the Energy Research Center. Our next briefing will be at 14:30. We will talk about the situation in Mykolaiv region. Please stay tuned. Let's continue working for our victory, and glory to Ukraine.